Like, do you mean it?
And we're here. We're here. I don't know if anybody's here yet. Hi, everybody who may or may not be here. StreamYard is telling me 0 people are here, but StreamYard will tell me that. And then it's like 4 people are saying hi in the comments, and StreamYard's like, nobody's here, sucker. And I'm oh, it's showing me that 1 person is here, which means it's probably like 3 people.
You never know.
If you feel like saying good evening or good morning or good afternoon or whatever, please do. If not, sit back and enjoy the show.
Yay!
Yay! It's Book Talk with Sock, where I am a middle-aged lady in a tiara who talks about books. Lovely. It's Abby Jean. Hi, Abby Jean. Nice to see you.
This is fun.
And with me is B. I think when I point like this, it looks to me like I'm pointing at you, but I'm not really. This is B. She is both the angel and the demon on my shoulders. At first, I thought she was an angel because she was like, oh, yes, do YouTube. You'd be great at it. Please, I love your Instagram. If you want to do YouTube, do the thing. It'll be great. And I thought she was an angel. And later I found out that actually that was her being a devil.
What?
Do YouTube. It'll be great. Hey, friends. Hey, Emily Lost in the Library.
Hi, Emily. Yeah. Oh, this is
so simultaneously angels and demons. Anyway, so good evening or good afternoon or good morning or good middle of the night. If you're watching it live in a different time zone from me, thank you for joining me. If you're watching it live in the same time zone as me, thank you for joining me. If you're watching it back later, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm here every other Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern to do Book Talk with Sock. And this is not a sprinting kind of live show. This is a discussion kind of live show. My sprinting kinds of live shows are every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And it is called Midweek Motivation because I was hoping I could motivate people, but it just turned into me like having sprints and stuff, which is also a good time. There's classic rock, which you have to tune into separately for copyright reasons. Usually there's a book haul, so yay.
Yay!
Megan is here. Megan, she doesn't even have, she's like what, 3 weeks?
Oh my gosh. It's really
And then she's going to have to change her name to no longer Megan's Book Nook, or her name is going to go from Megan's Book Nook to Megan's Mrs. Mr. Book Nook. I'm pretty sure I understand how that works.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Tracks, doesn't it? Yeah. And Kristen is here. Hi, Kristen.
Oh my goodness. Yay.
Oh gosh, this is funny. It says LOL. Megan says, LOL, hey, yes, the clock is ticking. But because I'm not wearing my glasses and it's kind of over there a little bit, I thought she was using language that Megan doesn't typically use, at least not around these parts.
Oh.
I thought she was saying HE double hockey sticks.
Oh my.
The clock is ticking. And I was like, that does not sound like Megan, at least not the way she communicates in these spaces. For all I know, she cusses like a stevedore at home, especially around her parents, because she's got to communicate with them in their language. But yeah. But it was just because I was not wearing my reading glasses. Stacy's here. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
We're just being a silly person. Megan she's laughing. She's thinking, it's funny because it's true.
Suck. Oh my gosh. I love it.
And Emily says, speaking of armchair travel, I just put on a Paris ambiance video in the background. So we're chatting on a terrace at desk in Paris, just FYE. FYE? FYI. And well, I'm kind of a little bit behind. So this candle I have going on behind me is Capri, because I'm still kind of in Italy. I just finished my Italy book earlier today, and I think I left it on the other side of the room. Okay, so this is like the thumbnail claims, and it's mostly true. This is a talking about armchair traveling. And I thought of this because at the end of the last Book Talk with Sock, I kind of like panicked a little bit, and I was like, I gotta say something. And so I said, like armchair traveling. And then I was like, yeah, actually, that wasn't a bad idea. And I was kind of inspired, of course, because B of Mama Needs to Read Romance is doing this is for her channel members, but I know not everybody can do that. So I thought, well, we'll talk about oh, she's gonna have to mute herself. She's solo parenting this evening because Papa needs to watch paint dry is doing some kind of work thing. So
Yes.
she's kind of flying solo tonight.
He'll
I'm
be home.
behind too and stuck in Italy, says Megan. Stuck? I wouldn't call it stuck. I have to finish my book tonight and my coloring page. I finished the book this afternoon, and I need to sit. My craft is just going to be doing my Instagram photo, which I haven't done yet, but I've done everything else. In
Nice.
fact, I got really confused. I thought it was already France week, and like last week, I thought it was already like Thursday or Friday. I thought it was France week because I watched my movie on Sunday for Italy.
Oh.
And so
Oh.
I was like way ahead of the game on that. And then I kind of fell behind. So anyway, I did have the food. I made clams linguine. Anyway,
It was so good. That picture was so pretty.
yeah, that we it was a nice enough day that I did not rush it out to my sunroom, take a picture of it, and then immediately dash for the air conditioned coolth of my house. We actually did eat out there with our little glasses of wine and everything. Anyway, so the
Fun.
point is that Megan is not Megan. Megan is here. B is doing this channel members thing, which is kind of armchair traveling. We're reading books that are set in different locations. In the month of June, we're doing the Mediterranean. So we've already done Greece, Italy. This week is France. Next week is Spain. Then July, which we're extending it to be 5 weeks instead of 4.5, is going to be some kind of North America. And I don't know what the poll ended up saying about how we're organizing that, if it's regional or time zones.
It was a tie again.
For crying out loud.
Eight votes each. And yeah, so I talked Abby Jean, and it's funny she mentioned it because I was thinking the exact same thing, and this is what I've done. And I was going to show you guys, but I was like, well, we're still enjoying the Mediterranean, so I don't want to bombard you guys with too much yet. But I've made a scrapbook instead of a oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about my daughter. She's living her best life being like Taylor Swift in the next room. She's so
I can't
loud.
hear her.
Oh, good. Okay. She's got a microphone and
Yeah, okay.
she's
Well,
really
anyway, I don't
going
want
to
to
town
get too
right now.
lost in the weeds on this. I'm just giving an overview so we can
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
We're picking books that are set in different locations, and I thought
Yes.
armchair traveling. And then I got to thinking about just a sense of place in books in general. It could be someplace, could be someplace, it could be no place. Oh wait, I'm going to catch up on comments here. And Emily says, I'm doing my French coloring page tonight while hanging out. Bon.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so fun. You'll have to show us,
Yeah.
Emily, after you're done.
Kristen says, woo, woo indeed. And Kristen says, a tie, you don't say.
I know, right?
Okay. Well, here's
Everything
something
we really
about
have to do. We're doing I just want to say we're doing regions, but there's the option to beam up to Canada at any point.
okay.
Like, so just so you know.
Okay. Thanks for the update. So anyway, what is happening? No, just that's it. What is happening? No. I just wanted to mention, speaking of a sense of place in fiction, is my mom and I know each other very well. I've known her all my life.
What?
And she's known me all my life.
Yes.
I think there's some stuff that happened before I was born.
Mm.
And she'll tell me about it. But nobody else who was there is present to offer their opinion. Anyway. So anyway, we live in the same house, and we tend to be rather not leaving the house kinds of people. So there's not necessarily a whole lot to talk about that we have not talked about before many, many times.
There you go. Yeah.
So one day, this has now evolved into a conversational game. It's not like a game with rules or anything, but one of us will say, are you reading a book? Or I am reading a book, and the other one will say, is it set in a location? And somebody, the other person will say, yes, it is set in a location. And then
Who would have thought?
it is upon the other person to figure out what that location might be. So you might ask,
Oh.
is it a country we've been to? Yes. Is it a country we've
Oh.
lived in? Yes. Is it the United States? No. Is it Germany? Yes. And so on and so forth, getting more
Fun.
granular as we go.
I love that.
So that just kind of, and it just leads to other reminiscence about places we've been or places we haven't been or places friends have been to, but we didn't go, or, it's just a new way to have a conversation. And
Fun.
also because either one of us could be asking the questions or answering them, it helps keep different parts of our brains stimulated. So it's fun.
I
We
love
usually
that.
we do this over breakfast
Oh, that's
or lunch or
fun.
whatever. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that because it's a fun thing to do, especially if you have somebody you see all the time and you're like, yeah,
Question. Do you and your mother have the same taste in books?
no, we do not.
Oh, interesting.
She enjoys more mysteries than I typically do, and she does not read romance for the
Oh,
most part.
okay.
Although when I got a copy of Just for the Summer was given to me by my library, she read it. And she reads it and she said, I understand it's part of a series. I'm like, yeah, you can read it independently. And she said, yeah, that's what I gathered because she researched it online before she started reading it. And then she says, I didn't mind that I hadn't read the first couple of books because, I felt like I was in there just fine. And she says, until like the last third of Just for the Summer. And then she's like, kind of wish I'd read the other two. And then
Yeah.
she's like, she enjoyed it. And she's like, do you have any more books by Abby Jimenez? And I'm like, I do not, but the library does. And she's like, I was just wondering if it were in the house. So then
That
when
is
I was
so
out and
funny.
about, I was at a library. I wasn't at their library sale, but they had a few books out in the lobby for sale for like $1. And they had a beautiful trade paperback copy of People You Meet on Vacation.
Yes.
So I brought that home for her.
Oh.
And she read it and enjoyed it. So she mostly does not read romance, and she certainly does not read category romance, but she will dip her toes in there every once in a while.
Well, there you go. Neat. Those are very mainstream, like almost women's fiction.
Yeah, yeah. She doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily read a whole lot of women's fiction either. She really likes literature and translation,
Oh.
and she likes kind of more general fiction, literary fiction. She does enjoy thrillers and mysteries. Not so much cozy mysteries, although she will dip her toes in that water. There's one she likes. It's about an Italian detective in Sicily, and I believe it's set in the late 19th century. And she likes that guy.
Neat.
So
Well,
anyway, that
that's
is the answer to that question. I could have given you a short answer, but you've met me. You know how I roll.
we wouldn't want that.
Okay, so what I was doing, and one of the things I've been trying to do is work smarter, not harder, as they say, for these book talks, because when I do getting into a new genre, I'm not going to recommend a book I haven't read or haven't read recently and so on, and that can be a lot of work. And so when I had the idea to talk about sort of armchair traveling and a sense of place in fiction, I was like, oh, I got to figure out what books to talk about and everything. And then I thought, well, why not make it easy on myself and just talk about my most recent books that I've read? And then I started getting into it, and I really found that there was a lot there, a lot of different ways of thinking about place that on a conscious level I hadn't really thought about. Let me quickly get caught up on this comment. We have, that's my favorite, Emily Henry, says Emily Lost in the Library.
The People We Meet on Vacation was the one
Yes,
you had referenced.
yes, which in the UK and Australia, New Zealand is known as You and Me on Vacation. It has a different
Oh,
title. Yeah, it
interesting.
has a different title in those markets.
Huh.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. So anyway, so I'm looking my last books, and for the most part, they don't really have a place in common, but were kind of invited a way to think about place and its place and its place, location and its place in a narrative. Because
Ah,
I've got different kinds of places to talk about. Do you have something you want to talk about first in terms of location and narrative?
well, I would certainly say I don't know if this is where you're wanting to go, so just ignore this. But I've always found it fascinating that the gothic type romances and how
Mm-hmm.
they're like their own character and they
Mm-hmm.
blend a certain atmosphere that, permeates the way the characters interact, the thoughts that they're having. I mean, in a gothic tale the setting is critical. So,
Yeah.
first thought.
Well, no, that's great. I was just thinking of this the other day because when I did my book tag video, scavenger hunt video, inspired by Tara, friend to you and me, and she one of the questions was a book that has 3 or more people on the cover. And so I had a step back. And then I was like, but a step back, that's not necessarily the cover. So I actually got another book that was a cover, and it was a copy of The Shining. And it was the original cover art for The Shining, where you could see Jack Torrance, Danny Torrance, and Wendy Torrance. And then I was like, and in the background is the Overlook Hotel. Is the Overlook Hotel also a character in this book? And I'm like, maybe.
Oh.
So that would be an example of exactly what you're talking about. And I think a lot of Stephen King and horror in general does have that sort of DNA of Gothic to it.
Sure, sure.
And Abby Jean says, yes, B.
Thank you.
I think this is in reference to Gothic and the
Right.
sense of place being so vital to those stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is perfect because although I do have some books that are set in specific locations that are armchair traveling of one kind or another, I have my little picnic basket filled with books.
Oh, I'm so
Is
sorry.
that Buddy?
This is Rudy. It's
Rudy, the
like
new one.
no one has a clue what to do without their father home as well. I'm so sorry. Anyway, he's run away for no reason. I don't
Okay,
know.
well, I have a couple of books that I read
Yeah,
recently. One was a
yeah.
reread.
Oh,
And
good.
this is one where the place is kind of non-specific in some ways. But when you get more granular, it is hyper specific
Oh.
for the sense of location, because I'm not exactly sure where these books take place. I don't think it's supposed to be a specific community. I think it's just like it's not named. I believe it's supposed to be in Wisconsin, maybe towards southeast Wisconsin, closer to Chicago and Illinois down there. But
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure. And maybe I'm sure people have read these books and maybe they can help me remember. But they are both by Jennifer Hartman. And I
Oh,
have Lotus
oh.
and The Wrong Heart. And of course, she also wrote Still Beating, which is set in that same kind of non-specific Midwestern place. However, the sense of place, and I'll talk about Lotus because I think more people have probably read that. I'm not sure. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's about a guy who's in his 20s and he has been locked away in a basement for over 20 years. And his belief is that this older man is protecting him because the world outside was destroyed in a nuclear war and that there are very few survivors left and they're all isolated in little bunkers and they trade for food and so on. And then he comes out of that bunker into the modern world and finds out that it was all lies and that his stepbrother is still living in his childhood house and next door is still his best friend from childhood, and she hasn't been able to move on. I mean, she's gotten older and she's had relationships and stuff like that, but everybody seems kind of trapped by his disappearance.
Oh my.
And then he comes back and he's trying to adjust to this world that he didn't understand, that he didn't know was there even. And it's a destabilizing, it's a joyous occasion, but it's also destabilizing for all the relationships. And so it's very specific in its descriptions of the basement in which he was incarcerated. From the time he was, I think he was only 6 when it happened, and now he's like 28. It's very specific in the descriptions of that basement. It's very specific in the descriptions of his childhood home and her childhood home in which she still lives. It's an alternating POV. And there's a little bit too about the neighborhood, but it's all very claustrophobic. And a lot of really, really interesting choices being made about space and place.
Wow. Wow.
And set in that same city is The Wrong Heart by Jennifer Hartman. I mean, and she, in this one, it's a woman who is very suddenly widowed. She's very happily married. She's very young. Her husband dies suddenly. He's an organ donor, and his heart is transplanted that same night. And she manages to finagle her way into getting the contact information for the recipient. And she gets in touch with him.
Oh my.
And meanwhile, she's processing profound grief. And she and her husband had bought this older home and they had been renovating it. And she doesn't want to renovate the bathroom because that was the next project they were going to tackle. And she doesn't want to do that because she's not ready to move on. And in here, so the house is a sense of place. And so is the grief support group she goes to. Well, it's actually a psychological crisis support group for people who are feeling like maybe it's not worth it to go on anymore. So the support group is a location, and the relationships are forming these kinds of psychological locations. So this is an example, I think, where there's no real sense of the actual city or state in which these take place. It's state in a political sense, not the state of mind, yes. The state of the union, not so much. And so I thought this is one where I'm not even sure. I think it's supposed to be in Wisconsin, but I think it's a very non-specified, nondescript kind of place. And yet there is a sense of place that is still maintained in here. It's not armchair traveling to a location, it's armchair traveling into somebody else's emotional reality. So that kind of ties back to what you were saying about the Gothic, except that here it's not quite like that. I do have another book that is, though.
Oh.
Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak.
Ooh.
Which is a thriller. The dog wants to be tucked in. Okay.
Just I'm listening. I'm going to open. Anyway, I'm listening. I'm walking away. I'm listening. Sure you are. I'm in the room. I'm in the room. I promise. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, which is a thriller, and it's about a woman who is overcoming an addiction, has overcome an addiction in as much as you get over something like that. I mean, she's still constantly having to work on it because, that's how that goes. Let's see. Somebody has a comment. I'll catch up with that. Yes, says Kristen, Hidden Pictures is a great example. Thank you for the validation. Nice to have somebody else who's here who's read this. Oh, wait, I think we were talking about this before because we were joking about, I always want to call him Jason Rekulak, which is, of course, a small village in France that the Coneheads are from. Anyway, so she becomes this au pair nanny for this young boy who likes to draw pictures, and she's just like living in this kind of guest cottage that nobody's lived in decades. I mean, it's all been renovated and everything. Anyway, so she's entranced by the pictures the little kid draws. Like he's got a goat and a tree and some birds visiting a bird bath and riding a bunny, very imaginative. And it's all very sweet and lovely until, watch out! He starts drawing increasingly disturbing pictures, and with an increasing level of skill that no 5-year-old has ever had. They just don't have the observational skills or the fine motor skills to pull that off. Now, this takes place in an affluent suburb in New Jersey. It's an affluent suburb of Philadelphia, which, because of the way geography works, some of those affluent suburbs are not actually in the state of Pennsylvania. This one's in New Jersey. And at first, it's just kind of suburban with, but as the story progresses and she's trying to figure out, like, is this kid haunted and what or who is he haunted by? She and a friend of hers end up going to like the library, and they go to the town room so they can do local history research. So they kind of are delving into a very specific aspect of the town's history. So something where, I mean, yes, he could have set this in any one of a number of places in North America, but he chose Philadelphia, and the sense of place does actually become relevant as the story progresses. Okay.
Mm.
Megan's got a nice long comment. With my current Italy read, I really enjoyed experiencing a different country through a book. With my mystery book, we are traveling to different parts of Italy as part of a book tour. Oh my goodness. That's like books within books within books.
That's so fun.
So you've got the characters in a book commenting about the places they're visiting as part of a book tour. That's lovely. I like
So
that. It's like Italian nesting dolls. And Tara says, I'm a little late, but made it. You missed the part where we were talking about you. Specifically, I was talking, don't worry, I was just talking about the tag video that you did, the scavenger hunt, and then I did it as well. That was,
Oh yeah,
it was,
yeah.
we were not gossiping about you.
Oh goodness.
Okay, so that's a couple of those kinds of examples where place and atmosphere are relevant to the story, but it could have been, it didn't have to be affluent suburb in New Jersey. It didn't have to be a Midwestern town. They just happened to take place there. But it also was kind of important, the kind of communities in which they were taking place. And Abby Jean says, that sounds like awesome pick for the Italian vacation theme, Megan. Agreed. I was actually, the one I read was a Harlequin Presents from 1973. And it was on a cruise ship.
Oh, fun.
And they had the goofiest itinerary because I think they left from London. Then the first stop they went to was Venice. And we literally spent a quarter of the book just hanging out in Venice. Because the male main character had family there, so they visit the family. So there's all this stuff that goes on. And then they go to Naples. And then the next stop for the cruise ship is supposed to be an island in Greece, one of the Greek Isles. And I was like, you went here, then here, and now you're going over here. Yeah. That's just okay. I thought that the person count said that I only had one person. I'm like, a second ago we had like 9, and it's 11. That's why I had it. Okay.
Funny.
Megan says, yes, it was such a shot in the dark, and taking a chance on a book I found at the library. Nice. And she says, she just has the last 30 pages left, but we found out who did it, and I'm excited for book 2.
Oh, fun.
Well, Emily Lost in the Library knows what it is, because she says, I'm so glad you're liking it, Megan. It's a fun book. Does anybody want to tell us what it is?
Is that the one where every time I travel, someone dies or something to that effect?
Right. Because she was saying about it before. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember.
It's
I
not
remember now.
It's not exactly that title, I don't think. It's something like that. But it looked really
Every time
fun.
I go on vacation, yeah, okay, I got it.
How cool that she just saw it in the library and it has become this amazing thing. I love it.
Yeah, and Emily's like, she got lost in the library and found it there too. Or I don't know, maybe she found it in some other way. I don't know. Every time I go on a vacation, someone dies by Catherine Mack, M-A-C-K.
There it is.
Okay, so, and then we have one, is there anything more any other books you want to talk about in terms of that kind of journey to the interior of the soul, or where the place isn't specified, but it still feels like it's important to the story?
Goodness. What? Oh, yes. I love it. Okay. I just talked about this the other day, so of course it's like fresh in my brain. But this is a fantasy, and I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but this is the setting is absolutely critical to the story because we have these are two enemies. She's a knight for the humans. He's an Aerie, and because he's an enemy of the state, they don't really know what to do with him. So they put him up in this dilapidated castle in the middle of the woods in winter on the top of a mountain. No one knows where he is. The castle's crumbling, and they only like he's by himself. They're calling it a prison now,
Mhm.
but he's the only inmate, and
Are
there's
they kind of just hoping that he'll like die?
probably, yeah. I mean,
Just,
they just don't, they've sort of just forgotten about him.
we expect you to die and be a cheap funeral. Okay.
Essentially, yeah,
Hmm.
and they have basically one knight at a time who comes and is the guard for him for, I don't know, like a year or something like that. And there's also a person there to help like cook meals who is deaf. And so there's this incredible sense of isolation and cold and bitterness. And both of them are feeling it for various reasons. And of course, they feel such animosity towards one another. But over time, even as spring approaches, so everything's warming up, they develop this, lo- you know, love for each other. I'm not giving that away because obviously it's a romantasy, but I really, really enjoyed the setting of this, and I felt that it really reflected the mood of the characters and their relationship.
Okay, so you have this specific location, this crumbling castle, prison,
Yes.
mausoleum, would-be mausoleum,
Yeah, yeah,
but you
essentially.
also have a specific location in time, uh,
Oh, right.
because it's winter,
Yes.
hoping desperately for spring.
Yes. Desolate, cold, just the way they're feeling about
Mhm.
each other. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and here's one because I left one book on the other side of the room, but this was the book I read for Greece, The Honey is Bitter by Violet Winspear.
Oh, yes! I saw that, yeah.
And the one I read for Italy is called Forbidden Rapture, which is also Harlequin Presents, vintage, by Violet Winspear. And the one I have for France is Harlequin Presents by Mary Wibberley. And the one I have for Spain is Harlequin Presents by Violet Winspear. Anyway, this
Oh.
one was number 6 in the Harlequin Presents lineup. This is a reissue. But when Harlequin started, and for quite a couple of decades, they largely were republishing Mills and Boon romances from the UK in North America.
Oh. Oh,
And
neat.
Violet Winspear, so most of their writers were English. Some of them would be Commonwealth types from Australia or New Zealand or South Africa. One of them was even from Zimbabwe, but she was Caucasian. And I think at that time they were calling it Rhodesia. Hey.
Oh my
Uh,
heavens.
and and then they started getting Canadian writers, and then they actually started publishing writers who were North Americans, Canadians, Americans, and publishing them directly. They didn't necessarily have to go through Mills and Boon to get back to the States. And now they have a
Mm.
pretty international crew of writers. And this one, however, because it was a reprint and it was in that first month or two of Harlequin Presents in being in operation. This was published in 1973. However, the British book was originally published in 1967.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm
Wow.
reading this, and they go to Greece, and the dude is Greek, and it talks about how he was an Andarte, which is a Greek guerrilla fighter during the Greek Civil War right after World War II. Now, it doesn't say, usually Andarte would suggest that they were part of the kind of the leftist communist uh, guerrillas that were fighting in that conflict. However, I'm pretty sure that she just meant to use that term to imply a certain kind of toughness. And it wasn't necessarily meant to denote like he chose this particular side or that particular side. Certainly, when the conflict is over and the right wingers win, he does very well out of capitalism. So people change, or maybe he was always kind of more on that side of things anyway. Uh,
Mm.
he owns his own island though, and he's become very wealthy as a shipping magnate. And he takes a lot of that money and plows it into the island. Like
Oh.
he has invested in the local infrastructure. He subsidizes the local hospital. He's a big employer in that area. He pays for everybody. He makes sure all the kids get educated. And the ones who want to go onto a university, there's not a university on this private island, but he'll send them off to mainland Greece or to another country if that's where they want to go, and pay for their tuition and everything like that. So he's kind of like this benevolent socialist, quasi-socialist overlord. So maybe he doesn't want to practice socialism on a national scale, or maybe he does. I don't know. It's not mentioned, because they do tend to stay away from politics. And this is surprisingly pinpointed in time, in terms of like, well, he's got to be living in a certain time if he's going to be involved in that politics. And so this was published in 1967, and it's supposed to take place at, around that time. And they're swanning around Greece, and there are pictures of like the Greek king and queen on the wall. And I'm reading this and I'm like, when exactly did Greece abolish the monarchy again? Because Greece doesn't have a king and queen anymore.
Right.
I mean, the people, I don't know if they're still alive or not, but I mean, they didn't execute them or anything. They just abolished the monarchy. And I looked it up, and I was like looking up the timeline, and it turns out that in 1967, there was a coup in Greece. Now, the king and queen stayed in power, or the king stayed in power, the queen was married to him. And that's, she wasn't the power herself. And and then this was published in the US in North America in 1973. In 1974, there was another coup, and that's the one where they abolished the monarchy.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm getting like this quick lesson that I'm giving myself, because I'm like, I know they don't have a king and queen anymore, but I don't know when that happened. And it's like, okay, so it's yeah. So
That's
there is the sense of
amazing.
place and time. And then in the one I read today, like I said, that was actually set on a cruise ship. And so there's this kind of, it only goes to 2 ports of call before the whole thing, the couple resolve their differences, and they just like swan off into the sunset. These books are not very long, so
Yeah.
and
There's only so much you can do.
however, that was I do like something that is set on when the journey is also a means of transportation, like a cruise ship. I have actually from Harlequin, and this is the Harlequin romance line, not the Presents line. And this is an arc that is being published that I have through NetGalley, because I'm a shameless romantic now. And it's coming out, I think, in August, July or August. And it's called Fake Date on the Orient Express. And guess what it's about? Fake dating on the Orient Express.
That's on NetGalley?
Yes, it is. If you want to take a moment to open up a different tab and look it up.
What?
Anyway,
Why would I do that?
So I think she's an actress and he's a film director or something like that. And it's Fake Date on the Orient Express.
That sounds so fun.
Anyway, so that is also road trips. I'm going to catch up, which gets me into my next book, but I'm going to catch up on some comments here, because actually Paige has been waiting patiently to be acknowledged, or maybe impatiently. She's late. Hey, everyone. Hi. Well, I know 7 o'clock is kind of awkward for you, because you don't actually live where it's 7 o'clock and you have work and stuff. Megan says, if anyone has a France rec that travels around the country, I'd love to hear them. I don't have anything specific in mind. And Megan says, oh, and for those of you who have read Gabrielle Meyer's time traveling books, do the locations play a major part of the plot or book? B, over to you.
Yes, and Paige actually, I think, was answering that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Glad you got an eye on it, because and so Paige says to Megan, yes, they do, the locations and the events of the time happening there. This is not how I read. I need my glasses.
Gotta get the
locations and the events of the time happening there do play a part of the plot / book and the choices the characters have to make. So there you go. And Megan says, oh, yay, thanks.
Yeah.
So anyway, speaking of road trips and a narrative that travels, Abby Jean and I read this as a buddy read, Sword Art.
Ooh.
And a lot of it takes place, they're going around in a wagon, and they're going from one location to another, and then they're coming back again, and then they go on this side quest, and it's a lot of fun. And so it's this fantasy world about which she's written before. Oh, I thought there was a map, but there is no map. But you get a sense of the place, of the village, and the roadside inn they stop at, and then the larger communities they go to as part of their quest. They end up in a monastery. There's a lot of different religions going on, and one of them is quite corrupt. It's really a good time, and you have these fantasy locations that, if you like those kinds of places, if you like fantasy taverns, they got them. If you like eccentric collector's house, they got that. And they also have sword art. The dude in this is actually enchanted, and he lives in the sword. He is the sword. He lives in the sword. And when the owner of the sword draws the sword, he appears. And when they sheathe the sword, he goes back into this kind of liminal space, this no man's land, until they draw it again.
Oh my heavens. Does he have a consciousness while he's...
Oh, he is aware of the passage of time, sorta. And I mean, he gets stuck in there, and sometimes he gets sheathed and doesn't get unsheathed for like decades at a time. And it doesn't drive him completely crazy, but the implication is that other people have been driven crazy by this. Abby Jean can probably supplement my imperfect memory here. See, I was going to talk about it. I was not expecting questions.
Sorry.
I was not prepared for this level of scrutiny. Paige says, you're welcome, Megan. Abby Jean says, I love the road trip trope.
Me too.
Sword art.
Yeah.
Texas Destiny. If the wagons are rocking, don't come a knocking. And Paige says, I need to read that T. Kingfisher novel. I enjoyed it. They go into a forest of peril at one point, and I thought that was probably not necessary for the narrative, but maybe she was setting something up for a subsequent book. I don't know. Abby Jean says, Paige, have you read the Saint of Steel series? And then Abby Jean says, okay, let's do this upright. He is in a kind of dreamless sleep while the sword is sheathed. He says he just remembers silver. Yeah, but I thought he kind of had, I guess he doesn't really have much of a sense of time elapsing, because when they figure out how long it's been that he's been in the sword, he's really, really surprised. So I was misremembering that. Thank you so much for the correction, Abby Jean, or the clarification, expounding upon it. Appreciate it. Because again, was not expecting questions. I was just going to lay down the law. So do you have any traveling, road trip, plane trip, what should we call it? Cruise ship, train, planes, trains, automobiles? I actually have an ornament on my maritime tree.
Really? A maritime tree? I missed that. Is that what you just did? A maritime tree? I missed that.
Yes, I decorated it kind of last Wednesday. I haven't taken any big pictures of it yet.
Oh, okay.
I think she's perusing. Anyway, this is a riverboat. It's got like a little paddle in the back that does not work, but
Sorry, I should have explained what I was doing. I was like, I'm just getting up.
I figured you were reviewing your show. So what do we got here?
This is, oh my gosh. Everything is going wrong.
Are we there yet?
Yes. Which is, I mean, it's the consummate road trip. And they travel through, I think they start in like Ohio, but they travel through the West on their way to the islands off the coast of California. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on
the Channel Islands.
Oh, and look, Savannah Scott drew a cute little bus. Isn't that precious?
Mm-hmm.
I just love her so much. Oh my gosh. Because she named the series after that. Once they arrive in the islands, then the rest of the books in the series are set there. And they're just this beautiful island setting. And I can't think of what it is, but it's going to drive me crazy. But anyway.
Well, there's Channel Islands National Park. And then there's Catalina.
Uh,
Anyway, we
sorry. I can't
I got
remember.
some. Okay, well, I've got some comments.
Marbella Island.
I don't know if that's a real place. What is it again?
Fair
Marvella
enough.
with V as in Virginia or B as in Boston?
Boston.
Marbella Islands.
I don't know a lot about
Okay, I'm getting, let's see, California. No, there's a Marbella, but it's in the Mediterranean. Oh, wait a second. No, I think this
No.
is a fictitious thing.
That's okay.
Yeah, in fact, one of the results I got was a YouTube video. It was somebody and Savannah Scott on a tour of Marbella, and Marbella was in quotes. So,
I am. Well, there you go then.
oh,
Okay.
okay, so Emily says, going through this summer reading challenge, I realized that I don't normally gravitate towards books with a strong sense of setting. I'm loving it, and now I want to prioritize it more.
Fun. Isn't that the
And
best?
then Paige had said that she hasn't read the, what is it, Saints of Steel yet, but she wants to this year. And Abby Jean's like, it is so good. And Tara Talks Books, I have read Shipped, which is on a cruise ship. I have also read Float Plan, which is more of an emotional romance. Both on boats, though.
Ooh.
Well, there's Swept Away, which I haven't read yet, which Abby Jean recommended. And that is set, this couple has a one-night stand on a houseboat, and the houseboat gets washed out to sea. And since houseboats have maybe a maneuvering motor, but probably not even that, and they're not really supposed to go out to sea, they're kind of stuck, I guess, until they can get somebody to bring them back. And then let's see. Paige says, oh, yay, I'm going to the bookstore next weekend, so I will look for them. Lovely. And Megan says to Emily, Lost in the Library, same. Now I'm paying attention to it, and I'm really loving it more. Nice.
Fun.
And Abby Jean says, ooh, Swept Away was so good. Hang on a second. I can do this without too much drama, I think.
Or just be like me and seem to leave, but you're just getting up. And oh my goodness. I love that you have a candle in the background.
You what?
I love that you have a candle in the background. It's so cozy. What is this? What do you have?
My neighbors are not getting up to shenanigans, unfortunately. Well, I think this is the first time I've had a candle going during a live.
Oh,
because I don't want to have too many things to have to think about. But I figure if it knocks over and sets my curtains on fire, you'll tell me.
Oh yes.
Or maybe you'll just like watch to see what happens. Anyway, so this is Swept Away by Beth O'Leary.
Oh, I love the cover. It's very pretty.
Woman in Cabin 10 is one that Kristen recommends by Ruth Ware.
Yes, I remember that one. Yes. Oh my gosh.
And Tara has an arc of Road Trip with a Rogue. And I read Swept Away, lots of adventure.
Nice. Oh, fun.
And Abby Jean points out that it is Beth O'Leary is the author of The Flat Share.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I read that or not. And apparently she also wrote a book called Wake Up Call. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this too, it's a library book, so I'll have to get to it sooner rather than later. So I have another traveling book, but it is a video game.
What?
Sort of. It is science fiction, and it's by a writer called Dan Hanks, and it's called The Way Up is Death. And a group of 13 people, it takes place, they're all from the UK, and there's this like kind of thing hanging in the air over the Gloucestershire countryside, and these 13 people suddenly are there on this thing, and it turns out they go into it and it has different levels like a video game, and each level is something that they're familiar with, whether it's like 70s horror or a video game that one of them actually worked on, that kind of stuff. and they've got to go through these different levels and figure out what's going on. It was okay. It's not my favorite thing that I've read, but it definitely has this video game setting kind of world to it.
Wow.
Okay, some more comments up with which we must catch. And Abby Jean says, I have been quite into the adventure romances lately. Yes, I just
Yeah.
read an adventure romance and I really liked it, but sometimes adventure romances can kind of stress me out a little bit.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to read Joe Segura, I think is how you say her name. She's got all these cute titles that look like Indiana Jones movies and
Okay, because there are a couple of different ones. Because there's one that's like Jewel of the Isle, where it's Isle spelled Isle. I think it takes place on Grand Royal in Michigan,
oh,
and I
oh,
think that's by somebody else.
oh, okay.
Because there's somebody else who's doing the ones that sound like, I don't know, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Swoon or whatever. And
Right.
then I think this is a different writer. Okay. And Tara says, I haven't read it yet, but I think A Week to Be Wicked is a road trip. Nice. And Abby Jean says, it is, Tara. That's a good one too. I read it as one of Megan's 12 Recs.
It's
If you want
so
to
good.
read, if you want to read an historical romance, it's very goofy, is a road trip, and is queer, that would be Something Extraordinary by Alexis Hall. And then if you want to read one that is also queer, that's male. There's one that's queer that is cis female trans male. A Sure Thing by Joanna Lowell. Takes place in Cornwall in the late 1880s. And they actually do go on this kind of cross country bicycle trip as part of a race situation. And I really enjoyed that one.
Oh,
Like,
fun.
okay, so speaking of adventures that are romances, I think this is pretty much the last one I have to talk about because I just got the ones that I picked up recently. This is by Kimberly Lemming. I got kidnapped by aliens. I got abducted by aliens, and now I'm trapped in a rom-com.
Oh my gosh. That looks hilarious.
And that's Dory.
Is
It
that it?
starts off,
Is that a dinosaur in the back?
you bet, a
Huh.
pink dinosaur.
How funny.
It turns out to be a Why Choose with aliens
Oh.
and sort of this other alien from a completely different species that's neither this dude nor the human Dory kind of shoots her with some kind of substance that's designed to turn her into a fated mate, except she ends up with two guys that are like, I don't know exactly what it is. It's a lot of fun, but it is kind of stressful because, you know, there's all kinds of adventures and stuff going on. It's very fast paced. It's not quite 300 pages long, and man, it flies by because there's always something going on.
Oh, how funny.
Anyway, it starts in southern Africa. She's a wildlife biologist and she's studying meerkats.
Oh
And
my.
then she gets abducted by aliens. And then she goes to this planet, which the aliens have seeded with various Earth flora and fauna.
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
and she at one point she knows enough about evolution and how long ago the dinosaurs lived that she sees a stegosaurus grazing in a field of dandelions and she just absolutely flips her lid because dandelions and stegosaurus did not exist together. What is happening? Well, it turns out, and this is a very minor spoiler, but it turns out that the aliens who set up this planet to be a good habitat for humans wanted to make sure that humans would have access to the resources that they would need.
Oh.
And they were supposed to do this 6-month fact-finding mission to Earth to find out like what they should put in this, but because budget cuts and one guy took a lot of money in order to build himself a really nice office, so they didn't have a lot of money left over and they ended up having to do it all in 3 days.
Oh, no.
And so they went into prominent buildings to find out what kind of animals humans found the most useful. And it turns out they just went to museums of natural history. And so they thought that dinosaurs were a very important part of human animal husbandry.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, sort of to help herself understand the geography and terrain of this planet, she names it Waffles.
Oh
Somebody
my.
says she gets to name it, and she's like, she just says the first thing that comes. They tell her, just say the first thing that comes into your mind, and it's Waffles. And so there is a map
Oh my gosh. A map
of
of
Waffles, and she ends up the things that haven't already been named, because these aliens are from a different planet as well. They've been relocated because of catastrophe, and so anything that they haven't already named, she's naming it things like pumpkin spice and hot coffee is a forest. There's a settlement called Frittata, Benedict Beach, Brunch Pass, the Church of Cheese. She goes into the church, this church that they've built, and they've used a lot of AI for things. And of course, because they have incomplete research, the church, she goes into the church. It's like all the stained glass windows, all the paintings, the frescoes, and iconography and everything all feature Mickey Mouse's Steamboat Willie. Like winning at combat with other fictional characters, like he's choking the life out of Frankenstein in one panel, and in another one, he's going toe to toe with Dracula. And it turns out that as far as, and she asks, well, what do you even think a church is for? And he says, well, it's a place where people go to gather and socialize. And she's just like, I mean, she's like, you're not exactly wrong, but that's very incomplete. She says, we do not, nobody worships Steamboat Willie. Here we go. Abby Jean says, Jewel of the Isle by Carrie Ray. I gave it 5 stars. Takes place on Isle Royal National Park. Not sure if that's a real place. It is. It is a real place. There's a lovely grand hotel and everything there. It's nice. I've seen pictures. I've seen videos. I want to go there. I haven't yet. Yeah, I thought I remembered that you had read that. And Tara says, I need to try a Kimberly Lemming book. You sure do. And Kristen's read it and she says, it's so funny. Toto the lion is the best. That's
oh, that's so cute.
And she says, Wizard of Oz retelling too, in a manner of speaking, assuming that Scarecrow and the Tin Woodsman were running a train on Dorothy. A few hours of research and no coffee.
Oh, man.
This book sounds insane, says Emily. Yes, it is. And that is not a bad thing.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Yeah, her name is Dory, which is short for Dorothy. And yes, Toto is her lion companion.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, that's neat.
So yeah, I was surprised it was White Shoes because I didn't really look up any warning. I mean, she does have some warnings in the front of the book, but it's about she says this book deals with emotionally difficult topics, including dubious consent under the form of a love serum, hostage situations, violence, and sexually explicit content that could trigger certain audiences. Reader discretion is advised. But I didn't realize, because I didn't look up anything more specific than that, I didn't realize it was White Shoes. So that was a pleasant surprise. And because for some of us, because and on the cover you only see the one dude,
right? That's so interesting.
Because the third member of that particular trio is neither the lion nor the dinosaur. I don't even need to read it, Abby Jean. I don't even need to read it now. She says, "Oh, okay."
There you go.
I mean, great job. I just barely scratched the surface, but sure. If you've made that determination, I love it for you.
Are the two people that she forms? Oh, Fun. Are the two people that she forms a relationship?
You know, over on Sarah the Bookish Knitter and Stormy on their sprints that they're doing like right now, you know, the Beach Bum Bookworm is making balloons and stuff happen. I mean, she's doing it on purpose, but you know.
Truly. No, what I was going to say is, do the two people that she forms a relationship with, is one like a Tin Man character and one's the Scarecrow character?
Mm,
Because obviously the line
very
is
broadly speaking, they're kind of analogous to that.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Very, very broadly speaking. I mean, it's a very loose retelling.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yes, says Kristen.
I think
Yeah, I mean, I would say this dude with, I think the dude with the straight horns, if I'm remembering, that's Saul, and he's kind of more like this, the Scarecrow. And the Tin Woodsman is the one character called Locke, who not even on the back cover. Poor Locke. He's pretty awesome. I like them both. I like all of them. One is a warrior and the other a farmer.
Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah, in their new lives on the new planet. Because the other guy was a warrior back on their home planet, but the one who is now a farmer, he was a lawyer. And now he's a farmer. So yeah. And you have yeah.
Neat.
I don't seem to recall any flying monkeys, but you know. So that's kind of just some recent reads and how I interpreted place, and how there are different ways to interpret place and different ways to armchair travel. You can stay on Earth. You don't need to stay on Earth, you know. And you can be really specific with place, or you can be kind of more general and vague about place, but still have a sense of some kind of sense of location. There's emotional location, temporal location. Oh yeah, I was going to ask if anybody had any road trip romances or other to recommend.
Yeah, they were talking about A Week to Be Wicked. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah,
there's Road Trip with Rogue. I think was one of
the ones.
Yeah, I know my mother was just reading a road trip book, which meant that our game of you know, reading a book set in a location was pretty extended. Because you had to figure out where they were from originally, where they're going now, and so on and so forth. It was called The Longs versus the World. And she seemed to enjoy it.
Oh, fun.
I can't remember who read it. But that's more general fiction.
Oh.
What you got there?
Oh, well, I just saw that Kristen mentioned this one.
Oh.
And
I love another conspiracy.
I'm dying to read it. That's too funny. I keep looking at the title. It just jumps off the.
Oh, I know you had talked about it on Wake Up to Romance.
Oh yeah,
I remember you talked about it. I don't think you interviewed the writer. I don't know if she did a video for you, but I remember you talked about it during, you know, on a Tuesday.
Yes, she was going to come on, and then she was moving. Like, she found out she could move earlier than she thought. So she was going to do a video, and then with the move, it just got to be too much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but she's a doll. I really like her. And I want to read this, and I want to read the one that's coming out, I think it's September.
Is that a road trip or?
They're all oh bother. Like,
I know it's kind of like an X-Files.
So it's centered loosely on cryptids. Is it cryptid?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, this one is in a woman who hosts a podcast, I think, and then the gentleman has a show, and it's doing very poorly, but I think they go on a road trip together to try to locate Bigfoot to help their careers. So that's the road trip element. Cryptids, yes, thank you. And then I can't remember for the life of me. I think the next one is also about a cryptid, but I couldn't tell you for certain if it's also incorporating a road trip. I'm not sure. But I'd like to find out. So yeah.
Abby Jean says, I want to read On the Way to You by, why do I try to do
Andy Steiner.
things without
And then
these?
she says road trip.
Andy Steiner.
Mm-hmm.
And Paige says, I got to go make some dinner, but I'm going to watch everything I missed later tonight. Have a great evening, everyone. Well, thanks for stopping in, and I hope you enjoy the playback. And I think we're just kind of about ready to wind it up because we've been at this for a little over an hour. So, ooh, says Abby Jean, The Seatmate by Cara Bastone is so good.
Yes, I love that one. I love that. That's
okay,
how
I haven't.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't read any Cara Bastone. So, what is the? Is it plane travel?
So they're on a bus from.
Oh, that kind of seatmate. Okay.
I want to say, I can't remember if it's New Jersey or not, or no, it's from New York. Oh, I don't know. One of the places is New York City, but yeah, it's done in real time. So it's like a 4-hour book or something, and it's a 4-hour story. Oh my gosh, I cannot think tonight. 4-hour book, 4-hour trip, and it's falling in love in real time.
Oh, was that the one that she did as an Audible exclusive?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's how I first got my introduction to her, and I loved it.
Oh, and another one that I like for a sense of place and sort of like all places and no places is sports romances. When it's the season and they're traveling around, whether it's the Formula One circuit or the hockey or football or baseball or whatever it is, you get these loving discourses about the relative merits of various hockey rinks or race courses or whatever. And they talk about how they really don't have much of a chance to like do anything touristy because they're practicing, they're playing, and then they're blowing off steam at the local bar and maybe meeting some ladies or gentlemen as their preferences dictate.
Right.
Yes, Abby Jean, loved Seatmates so much, says Tara.
So much.
And yes, I tried to read this the other day. It was not for me. And I know it's a particular favorite of Tara's, though. And it is somewhat of a plain romance. And that would be Mile High by Liz Tomforty.
Oh.
It was not for me, but, thought that was worth mentioning. Because, it's sports and it's like the private charter plane that they charter, the team charters for the players. So
neat.
So anyway, I think we're just about ready to wind down for the evening.
Okay.
Just as Papa needs to read books about industrial solvents, gets home. And
literally, as you said that, I heard him walk through the door. Now everyone's yelling. So
and he's clutching a book called A Novel Solution: Industrial Solvents and You. And
oh gosh. Yeah.
Kristen says The Lord of the Rings is a road trip. Yes. Yeah. Well, so is Wizard of Oz.
The ultimate road trips. I love it.
And Abby Jean says, good point, Kristen. Yeah. And bye, everyone, says Abby Jean. Happy travels. Bye. I'm curious to see what I end up dreaming about tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Ana's here. I have been here, but was watching on my TV while making steak gyros. Oh, well, ooh. I think we're going. Thanks for letting us keep you company. Tara says it's my least favorite in the series. Love the right move and caught up the most in that series. Oh, okay. I thought that for some reason I thought that was your favorite. I just did not care for the male main character at all. I found him really kind of not a book I wanted to read. Still need to read the last two. Gotcha. Well, see, this is the rare series where she's a completionist. Tara, when it comes to a series, she's usually like, whatever, man.
I'll read one here and one here. I mean, I do the same thing.
Anna gave us some purple hearts.
Oh, I love it.
And Tara agrees that does sound really good. Mm-hmm. We had pork carnitas pizzas for lunch, so. And then we had pie a la mode. She had peach and I had strawberry rhubarb.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. How fun.
And anyway, so yeah, so we're wrapping up now, and thank you all for joining, and thanks for watching. If you're watching it back later, appreciate it. What's coming up for me is midweek motivation will be on Tuesday. Tuesday. Why do I say Tuesday? It's a lie. Midweek motivation will be Wednesday. Midweek motivation will be Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And that will be a productivity reading, napping sprints, whatever you want to do. And I will be chatting between sprints. And I went to a library sale over the weekend.
Ooh, that's fun.
And actually, the book trough. I took a picture, put it on the
Yes.
Discord of the book trough.
Yes.
It's under Shelfies on Wake Up to Romance Discord. And it has a mix of 42 hardbacks and trade paperbacks. And those will be what I talk about when I do my haul during midweek motivation on Wednesday. So,
Yay.
and Tara says, so true, Sock. She feels so seen. And Megan says, bye, everyone. Been working on my coloring page while listening. And
Love
she
it.
says, hoping to meet you in France tomorrow. So, what's coming up for you, B?
Well, there's Friday evening for the channel members, we're doing a live show, so that'll be fun. But other than that, I don't have any other lives this week. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're in France this week, and next week is
Yes.
Spain,
Yeah.
España,
Yes.
land of a thousand smiles, I guess. I don't know.
It'll be fun. I'm really excited. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. This was so fun.
It's always a good time, I like to think.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so, and since you probably want to go hang out with Papa, and
it's just
ask
bedtime.
him.
It's getting crazier. I can hear it. Yeah.
They're dialing it up, dialing it up, dialing it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So again, thanks for joining me, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you're watching it back later, appreciate it. And again, I will be here on Bargain Counter Argument on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for sprints, hauls, and associated fun.
Yay.
Good night, everyone.
Awesome. Take care. Good night.
Good night.